6, and we're getting ready to start this meeting. We're going to talk about 51st Street. It's pretty interesting.
This meeting is being transcribed and summarized.
Good. All right. Good evening. This meeting of the Robert Miller Municipal Airport Plan Implementation Advisory Commission is called to order at 6:06 p.m. on Tuesday, January 13, 2026. We are meeting at Austin Energy headquarters. Present in person are Commissioners Clemens, Hilliard, Snyder, Malcolm, Kravaniak, Lukey, and Jones. Commissioners, the first item on our agenda is public communications. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to provide up to 3 minutes of testimony on any topic related to the Mueller Development that is not on today's agenda. And no one signed up for public communications. We'll next move on to approval of the minutes from the November 13th meeting of last year. Commissioners, I assume you've had an opportunity to look at those minutes, and are there any corrections, additions, or other changes that need to be made? Hearing, there's been a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, those in favor of approving the November 13th meeting minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? November meeting minutes are approved. Next is a more extensive staff briefing on the East 51st Street Mobility Project, a topic which there's a lot of interest in, and representing the city's Capital Delivery Services Department is Janelle Landry. Janelle, we'll turn it over to you, and we'll look forward to your presentation.
Hi, thank you everyone. All right, thank you for having me this evening. My name is Janelle Landry. I'm an Assistant Director with Capital Delivery Services, and I'm here today to give you an update on the East 51st Street Mobility Project. So the project, of course, is located along East 51st Street from IH-35 to Berkman Drive, and it stems from a 2012 vision plan, and this project was originally funded by our 2012 mobility bond. The city started preliminary engineering shortly after that bond was passed, and that was completed in the fall of 2015. The project was put on hold until April of 2017 when additional funding was secured to take the project through to the end of construction. The project reached 90% design with the previous consultant, but the plans submitted repeatedly failed to meet drainage and water quality requirements and were of poor quality. So just a review of the scope of this project. The scope is a full depth pavement replacement, and then it's also included are 8 to 10 foot bike paths, a 6 to 7 foot sidewalk, safety improvements at the intersections, utility upgrades including water, drainage, and electrical utilities, and then full landscaping along the corridor. All right, so since we were last here in late 2024, we have terminated the design contract with our previous engineer after several failed attempts to obtain a permit and achieve completeness from our quality management division. So in November of 2024, a new consultant started work and quickly turned around a project audit. And that audit identified what we needed to do moving forward, what could be salvaged from those existing plans, and basically turned around a design plan. The new consultant submitted 60% plans in October of 2025, and then received comments from all of our reviewers the following month. Last month in December, the project team conducted review meetings with all of those reviewers to make sure that everyone was in conformance about the comments and the plan forward. Currently, the consultant is working towards 90% design. In regards to what's next, we expect to receive 90% plans in March of this year, and then we're going to hold a public meeting to give updates on the project and the timeline in spring or early summer after we've addressed all 90% comments and have concurrence from all of our reviewers. We expect that it will take approximately a year to obtain our site plan permit and to be approved for bidding. And so we're anticipating advertising the project in spring of 2027 with a construction start date of fall of 2027. We expect construction will last a little over a year and cost $15 to $17 million. This estimate is going to be refined as the project design progresses. So as we all know, this project has had some challenges. And so what our project team has done is they're identifying project risks that could jeopardize our schedule, and we're actively working to mitigate these risks. These risks are also being monitored by CDS and TPW executive teams at our project health assessments. And so the main risks that we've identified that are there from the previous plans was limited space available for water detention. And we are applying for an RSMP permit to mitigate that. We've already done our initial consultation and are working through that. We're also proactively working through waivers with our partners in Austin Water and Watershed Protection. And we're trying to stay on top of any development changes along the corridor by coordinating with development services to make sure that we know what's happening before it gets here. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the commissioners.
Commissioners, questions from the sign. We'll start with Dave.
I don't know if you have it back up, but maybe I've just forgotten, but like, is there like, I think you at the beginning kind of have a little recap of what exactly, what are the changes? Maybe just go back to that slide.
The changes, and when you say changes, you mean to the scope of the project?
No, just like what is the scope of the project again? I know it's between I-35 and Berkman, and we're getting more bike lanes and
Right.
fewer travel lanes, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So there's an asphalt cycle path on one side, and there's a bike lane and a sidewalk, and there are actually sidewalks on both sides of the corridor. Then it's a full depth pavement reconstruction, so we're completely redoing that pavement. There's improvements at the intersections. There is some adjustment of curb lines, and then it's full landscaping throughout.
And is it the same number of automobile travel lanes, or is it?
I believe, yeah, I don't think we're doing any lane reductions here.
Okay.
Is this one? Okay. The regional drainage, are you creating a new one, or is that going to tap into Miller's, or how does that work?
No, so that's a program that is administered, actually. We have a City of Austin staff member who administers that program. And so really it's a permit application and a mitigation fee is what that entails. And so it's something that we have done on other projects, and it's within the City of Austin.
Are there going to, previously there were rendered plans and even views, street level views, or is that going to be prepared for the public? Public's not going to understand engineered drawings.
So when we are working towards that public meeting, we will be engaging with our consultant and our PIO staff to put together, boards, or if it's going to be schematic layouts that are viewable for the public, that's easy for the public to understand. So yeah, for this is primarily like, here's what our plans look like, yes.
Right. Is it too late to consider a roundabout at Berkman and 51st?
I think at this point, if we're trying to stick to the existing schedule, that would mean a change in our schedule.
Right. It's much safer.
Yes, Corky.
Who is the consultant that you've hired now?
Yeah, our consultant is Half. They're a civil engineering firm.
And would you go back to the timeline again? So, what's happening between now, in March and spring of 2027?
Yeah.
Just sort of give me some benchmarks that are occurring in that time period.
Absolutely. So we submitted 60% in October. And so right now what the consultant is doing is working on taking those plans from a 60% level, making sure they've addressed all comments, and adding more detail to turn them into what we consider 90% plans. So those will be submitted in March. We'll go through a similar process where the consultant will receive comments, they'll address those comments. They will submit for their first permit review, and we do expect that there will be a few rounds to get this through site plan. And so that's what that time difference is between March of 26 and spring of 27.
But we have this drawing on here. So that is 51st going to the I-35 bridge on Cameron Road, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so I see a median. I see a median. And of course, we don't know how far down that's going to go. There are two driveway entrances into whatever the Home Depot area is called. One that will block people from coming out and going across and trying to get to Cameron Road, which some people do. But the easternmost driveway coming out of that block is critical to be able to cross and make that, because otherwise you have to go out of Marbury Jordan and go all the way around. Do we know if that is feasible?
That is something that I can definitely confirm that with our design engineers that they've looked at. I would say I'm sure that they did, but thank you for bringing that up, and we'll make sure that they do look at it if they haven't.
Okay, and while I have the microphone, the question about Berkman at 51st, that is a really bad intersection right now. Some of it has to do with the fact that they didn't align Berkman within Mueller, or they aligned the wrong side. I'm sorry, it's just bad. And so it is not a great intersection, and I'm sure that there's not going to be anything that would change that. Some signal timing, maybe some slight realignment of some of the lanes might be feasible. Do you know if any of that is in the plan? Signal timing would not be something that you would deal with, but is there any physical changing in that intersection that you're aware of?
That would be something I'd have to get back to you as well, but again, I'll note that and we'll look into it.
And a public input or a public display of this information, is there time to do some tweaking on the project?
I would say tweaking, yes. Change, redesign, no.
Yeah, okay. I get that. It's like I'm waiting long enough, but tweaking still should be a possibility because we have not had the opportunities to do that along the way that you would think you might get in 14 years or 13 years anyway. So yeah, that would be really, really nice. And they are aware that people are going to have comments to make about whatever gets displayed. Okay, thank you.
Noted, thank you.
Martin?
Thank you. What intersection are we looking at right here?
Yeah, so I think the gentleman was right that this is Cameron Road and
Okay, so
51st Street.
on the right side, that's a slip lane going to Cameron Road then?
Yes.
Okay. Please explain the bike lane part to me because I can't really see that very well.
I will do my best. It is better when it is in color. So the bike lane is this right here. And then there's a sidewalk.
So the bike lane is attached and next to the sidewalk?
Yes, the bike lane in this area is next to the sidewalk.
So it's a separate,
Excuse me, yeah.
And this is Fernando. Do you want to Cantero?
Go use the microphone, please.
Yes.
Oh,
We're recording this,
Okay,
we want every word.
Fernando Cantero is with TPW and is very involved in the day-to-days of the project, so he's probably much better to speak about the specifics here.
Yeah, so what I would say about these images that you're seeing right now, just take it with a grain of salt. These are 60% plans. They are going to change. There was already a comment made about this intersection specifically on how it's operating as far as cyclists and pedestrians. So we want to be able to make those changes. So what you're seeing now is going to look totally different from what we are going to display at between that spring and summer timeframe. So, but yes, we're trying to do more modifications to these plan sets. So whatever images you see here, it's gonna look totally different from the actual schematic layout.
So are there gonna be bike lanes on both sides of 51st Street?
Yes, there will be, yes.
Okay, and they're gonna be separate from sidewalks?
From what I remember is going westbound, yes, it's gonna be separated. And I think there are certain portions on the eastbound that will have shared use paths. But I need to verify, because I know there's already an existing sidewalk on that area. And we might be able to, depending on the constraints that we have on the right of way, to do that separated facility. But I can't confirm that right now, but I know for sure going westbound, that's the typical section for it.
How far is the bike lane away from the street itself? Is there a barrier?
That's another modification we're looking into, but I think for at least the minimum is gonna be 8 feet separation. We are repurposing some of the drainage facilities to be able to have that separation. So more to come on that as well. These are all great questions, but I think, we're still trying to refine the design based on the comments and try to meet the design criteria that we have already established. And, they're perfect questions for sure. So we'll look into those as well.
Okay, well, y'all been working on this for quite a while. Is this gonna win the award for the most time taken to build something in the city of Austin besides, I don't know, the dam?
I think that'd be 35, but I'm just kidding.
That's not city of Austin.
No, yeah, so it's complicated. Just letting go of another consultant, not really meeting the quality that we're looking for, and not be able to respond to the different comments that were given throughout the review, and try to get them to that level. That's why there was a change in consultants, and now having someone else pick up the same work, that engineer needs to be able to own that work that they did in the past. So now they're going through the same process of getting it permitted, getting through all the reviews, ensuring that the new engineer is responsible for the design if anything were to happen during construction or afterwards.
I understand that. It's like reinventing the wheel, isn't it? So the center lane, I see trees in the design. I know that we've been having the center lane be kind of a left turn lane this whole time. And I say we because I live in Windsor Park and I use this street every single day, 2 or 3 times a day, so I'm very familiar with it. I'm assuming that when you then build this trees in the middle, that's going to be in certain sections, but not the whole street. Wherever there's traffic lights, I'm assuming there's going to be a turn lane, etc.
That's correct. We'll have a protected left turn lane with that bay.
But the idea is to put some big trees right down the middle of the street, correct?
I don't know about the size of the trees, but we're looking into that. We're trying to repurpose some of the trees that we're taking away from on one side of the road and repurpose those trees. So the plantings themselves will take a while on what type of trees we'll plant in the median.
Okay. Well, I'm on the Environmental Commission also, and the very first thing we always say when it comes to trees is, are they going to be native, drought-tolerant species?
I'm not sure on that. That's a
Just
really important
yes,
detail.
Nod and smile. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. This generally what happens here. But I like to push that button because that is fairly important. Considering where they're going to be, they're going to need all the help they can get to survive. So, all right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks. And as part of the site plan review, our city arborist provides a review, and that's also one of their typical comments and something they're looking for, so.
Dave,
You mentioned that you're sort of trying to take into account the feedback you've already gotten. Just so I understand, is that sort of internal staff feedback, or because the process has been so long, I've forgotten if there was a previous public meeting, so I don't know if the comments are from a public meeting like long ago or.
Yeah, so
previous plans.
we did have previous public meetings, but you are right, they were several years ago, and we're probably focused on, what the corridor would look like, what access would be. The comments that we are addressing right now are from all of our stakeholder reviewers.
Like that's internal city Boston staff people. Got it.
Yes.
Gotcha. I don't know how these things normally work, but I just kind of wonder if, like, rather than, I don't know, you can tell me if this is not a good idea, but rather than waiting for the 90% design for feedback, I just wonder if, I don't know, maybe it's too early, but like my brain is like, maybe sooner, just in case there's a, you know, since it's been a while since the public's seen it, I don't know, just a thought to maybe pull that in and do the public feedback earlier than later, but just a thought.
I've got some skin in this project because I'm going to take some liberty here and just give a little, as brief as I possibly can, explanation of why this happened. When Mueller was first laid out, the initial the illustrative plan, the red line was going to be diverted at Airport and 51st Street, come down 51st in a median, turn at Berkman to go south into Miller in the median, and then go back out Manor Road and reconnect over on the other side of Airport Boulevard. So there was a 60-foot setback, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Weaver, on the Miller side to provide for the widening of 51st Street to do all of that. Well, 10, 12 years into the project, basically, we knew that the train wasn't going to happen. So, and I think what happened was when the AISD Performing Arts Center was initially proposed, I went to council because they had to approve the sale of that land to another governmental entity. And it was initially proposed at 51st and Miller Boulevard. It's gotten moved over, obviously, to Barbara Jordan. But at that time, I was telling council, I said, really, it should be more internal. We already have Home Depot, which we were not supposed to have big boxes early on, is what they told us. HEB was under construction, and now you're going to put this Performing Arts Center on 51st Street. There are more driveways and, well, streets and driveways into Miller on 51st Street. There's like 13, I think, or anyway, and there's like 7 or something on the rest of Miller's street perimeters. I mean, that's total. So there's a whole lot more stuff happening here. So I believe that Catellus paid for the concept of the concept drawings of redoing this. We're still moving the curb on the Miller side to the south, but the 60-foot setback is now like 15 feet, 20 feet, I don't know, it's way less. So Miller gained developable area due to this. You're still getting a wider street with a median that should have some trees in it. And so, I mean, all of this it's great. It's just taken too long. And there are a couple of places, again, that Home Depot access is very critical because you're not just dealing with cars, you're dealing with semis and people with trailers behind trucks. So that is a very, very critical piece of access that needs to be addressed with this. And then whatever can happen in Berkman and 51st Street, that we can help improve the traffic flow and the pedestrian access there is critical. The other streets, I think, will be handled okay. They're not as complicated. The only street that crosses is Lancaster, and it's been in place for a long time, and it seems to be working okay. Berkman is a whole other issue. So the amount of traffic and all that that's going on there is definitely an issue. All of the separated, we're going to get trees on the Windsor Park side. They can't be as big as they are on the Miller side because we have overhead power lines on our side. But it's going to be, the intent here was to sort of not make it look like, oh, here's this fabulous new Miller, and then here's old Windsor Park. It's to kind of make it blend a little bit better. So that was kind of the point of doing all of this. So I appreciate all of the work that has gone into it, that all that Catellus did to help get this along, the voters who approved it, all of that is great. But I just wanted to give a little bit of history so that everybody knows what's going on here. And I think it'll be really good once it's done. But I really, really do hope that you have some public input opportunities before it's too late. So Thank you.
Appreciate the context. Commissioners, other questions? I did have one question. You'd mentioned about the RSMP process and could you tell us a little more about what that entails? Because I'm not, you're right, it's been maybe about a year and a half since we heard about this one, and that may have been mentioned then, but I wasn't quite familiar with what the permitting process is.
Right, yeah, so RSMP stands for Regional Stormwater Management Plan, and basically it is something that we can do when we can't detain all of the water coming off of, say, the roadway in this case, on site. And so the water will be detained, further down, basically the flow, but still needs to be on city property. And we are allowed to do this through the process with watershed protection that we work with, and we pay a mitigation fee essentially. So
I have to say, I do hope there's an effort made to be able to make comparisons to what was presented before, even to sell the bond issues, and what is coming now, and an explanation for why and what changed. There's just too many drawings that I remember and the public remembers. I remember great streets treatments on the south side of 51st in some blocks. And if that's gone, we'll need an explanation
okay,
for why that went away.
yeah, and what I've
There's so many years of drawings. Great, you have a new engineer and you're coming up with a new design, but we should be able to compare those to the old ones.
Yes, and our engineer did take we have not cut any scope out with the new engineer, so I do want to clarify that.
I remember there being an artist being hired to put art pieces along the 51st Street side where there are bus stops, I believe. Is that still there? Is that still in the plan?
Yes, AIPP is a requirement, and so, yeah, we will still have art in public places as part of this project.
He's already made those things. They're probably 10 or 15 years old now, aren't they? They're like teenagers now. All right, great to hear that.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. Thank both of you. This was enlightening. As I said, this is a topic of which there's a lot of interest in on both sides of 51st Street, and if we can do anything to help spread the word about whenever you set up your public meeting, let us know. We look forward to that we can pass along that information. And as you move closer next year, we hope you'll come back next year.
Yes, sir.
What I assume will be closer to the
Yes, sir.
final plans and as you get ready to start construction. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have 4 people signing out. The first one is Doug Balloon.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Katie go first, and we're gonna switch.
Okay. Katie Camp.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. I'm Katie Cam. I've lived in Mueller since 2014, and I'm a transportation engineer. I walk, bike, or drive either in my car or low-speed vehicle almost daily on East 51st Street. Since 2012 bonds, so much has happened. Growth around Mueller with families crossing East 51st to go to the elementary school off Berkman Road, which can be scary to watch. Second, City Council approved a 2015 Vision Zero ordinance, a resolution, and Austin Mobility Plan with aggressive 50% pedestrian and cycling goals. Third, there's an increased interest in the use of other mobility modes, such as trikes and golf carts. Number 4 is an increased evidence that roundabouts are an effective safety countermeasure for all modes to the point that it becomes irresponsible to continue to put in more signals. Indeed, the roundabout at southbound 35 and East 51st Street has significantly much better safety record, if you look at the TxDOT Crash Record Information System database, than the signalized intersections along East 51st from Cameron Road to Berkman. With the Berkman intersection having 45 significant crashes in the last 10 years. You can look at the details again on TxDOT Chris. Here are my requests and why I'm here tonight, which others in the neighborhood have also expressed an interest in. First, we have an opportunity to create an East 51st Street that is a model Vision Zero and multimodal corridor. Right now, the plan that you see here is just Band-Aid approach. We're not really taking this opportunity to make something that's a model for the rest of the city. And going to the point of connecting Windsor Park and Mueller, we can definitely do that with a design that is geared more towards that. Again, going back to the interest in other vehicles, when I drive my low-speed vehicle, I don't know where to drive it on East 51st Street. Do I drive it in the bike lane, sidewalk, car? If you hang out in Mueller long enough, there's a lot of golf carts. And this is happening across the country with an increased use of golf carts and low-speed vehicles and trikes. The other thing I want to point out too is, the public input has been sparse. The opportunities have been very limited. According to my records, the last time we had a chance to provide feedback on this was September 24th, 2018. I took photos of the Post-it notes that were left by my residents, my neighbors. That's too long ago. Thank you. So we need another public meeting before March 2026, before the 90% design. We need this to have the residents have a say in this because so much has changed. To the point of time, getting the design right for safety and to meet council goals is much more important than rushing to a project that is less effective and has Band-Aids. We need to capture this opportunity to create a model Vision Zero multimodal corridor that ultimately will cost less because it is safer and gives more affordable transportation options for people. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, Doug Ballou.
Hello, everyone. My name is Doug Ballou. I've lived in Mueller since 2009. And when we moved here, we were already talking about 51st Street. I worked in Vision Zero. I helped to start Vision Zero with Austin Public Health around 2015, maybe even before that. And, we have data. That's a big part of Vision Zero is collecting data, determining where the impacts of severe crashes and cause injuries and fatalities. And you may have heard about many of the intersections that Vision Zero has identified as high crash corridors, and then the city going in and retrofitting those and seeing immediate improvement. And here we have a blank slate on 51st Street where we could make this a shining example of a safe corridor where families and children can access, other parts of the community because as we know, Airport Boulevard and 51st Street are they're not bike and pedestrian friendly. They kind of insulate Mueller from the rest of the community, and it makes it hard to get into those other communities and hard to get into our community. And if we were to build more seamless connections, we'd all be better off. As Katie mentioned, roundabouts. Here we have the first roundabout from TxDOT that they've ever built on an interstate freeway, and it's been highly successful. The crashes have gone down. The traffic is so much better. I don't know how many of y'all been here since when there used to be a light there, and it was just miserable. And here we see increased traffic flow and reduced incidents of traffic injuries. And so, but yet the limited scope that I've seen here, at least the plans, the very brief, one or two intersections, it's more of the same. And it seems like there's just a disconnect between those that are trying to make, traveling by, all means of transportation, not just cars, making that safer. And the city continues, at least as far as this plan, to prioritize speed over safety. And so I think it's time that we reconsider, projects like this in a shining community that's so bike and pedestrian friendly as Mueller. So let's do this and expand it outward and into, Austin. Thank you.
Next is Preston Tyree.
Good evening. My name is Preston Tyree. I've lived in Miller since 2017, when I married a Miller resident and moved here. I'm going to talk about trikes because my wife rides a trike. And we ride a trike over to the almond tree across I-35. She rides her trike over there. And it really used to work well. First thing that happened was somebody hit the pole that had the flashing light on it that told the cars coming southbound that there's a pedestrian here on the crosswalk trying to get across, and it has never been replaced in 7 years. Nice job, Austin. It's almost impossible to get across that on that trike now. But we also rode a tandem over there, and that worked pretty well. But we have an opportunity here to make this so much better. As I think somebody said earlier, a traffic sewer. That's what it is now. It's built for cars. Yeah, we have a bike lane on the right side, on the westbound side. Sure we do. You ever been ride on it? Forget it. It's all about cars. And we have an opportunity to make it better so that our kids and our seniors can use that space on the bike and the trike and make it work. Why have we stepped away from that? Like Doug, I was on the original Safe Routes task force. I was on the original Vision Zero. My first job was in Austin, was working for Travis County, teaching kids how to bike safely in traffic. And we've given all that up out here on 51st Street. And we know the statistics are there, the data is there to say when people ride bikes more, things get safer, things get better for all of us. And we can get out of the cars and just do so much better job. Please, 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 take the opportunity we've got to make a difference, and I agree, we really need public comment before we get to 90%. Because the last public comment was 2018. Come on, you mean nothing's changed since then? Of course it has. Let's get new comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next agenda item is the update from Banbury Development by Brian DeLiesel and his boss.
I report to Brian. You going first? I'll go first. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing me out. I'll be very short and sweet. You've all heard about the transition from Catellis Development to Banbury Development, where our team about a year and a half ago transitioned over and actually spun out into Banbury Development, and it's all been going very well. Really here to brief you that we've been working with the city staff to actually transition the master development agreement into Banbury Development, and that's what we're here to brief you. There's no material changes to the master development. We're kind of at the tail end of it, but that has happened as of about a month ago. Our team's all here. There's zero, I don't think you've seen any difference of what's been happening to date, and there'll be no difference going forward. It's our same team, it's us. It was administrative just because there was no material changes to the master development agreement. City Council's been briefed. There was one question, I believe, and the question was, I think the question was, am I still here? And the answer was yes. So anyways, just here to give you an update on that and brief you, and happy to answer questions, but that's why I'm here today. Brian, is there anything?
I've got other updates, but that's it.
Yeah, and Brian will give you some other updates too, and I'm glad to hear the emphasis on 51st Street. We have been working on that very long time, and I'm happy to hear the voices today too. So that's a side note.
Commissioners, questions regarding that aspect of the development update?
Absolutely, I'm not going anywhere, and we're working on Colony Park now, so that's we'll be around. Thank you all.
Oh, but before you do, you said, so just so we're clear, so Catellis no longer has any role in the?
That's correct. That's as of a month ago. That's correct.
And so council already knows, and so.
Yeah, council's been briefed, and again, because it wasn't a material change to the development agreement, it didn't require any amendments or anything else, so it was kind of embedded into the MDA to allow for things like this to happen, and just we're at the tail end of the project, so it's kind of our team here doing what, frankly, we've been doing the last 20 years, but just kind of winding down the project over the next couple years.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Sure. All right, and well, thank you for the update, and look forward to the updates from the other members of your management team here each month. I know the
Yes,
public appreciates
Mr. DeLiesel is always very good to go do that, so. And I'm happy to come back at any point too if I get invited, so, thank you.
All right, Commissioners, just for the record, I'm Brian DeLiesel with Banbury Development, not Catellus anymore. My presentation here is going to be pretty light. There's not a whole lot of new development since last we spoke. I think I gave you a development update in October of last year, and then was part of the affordable housing presentation in November. But I will start off with some good news related to in-town homes. You may be familiar, there are actually on two projects, one on the north end and one on the south end of the development. On the south end, they actually have, I'll call them kind of two sub-projects within that southern development. First was the Austin Modern Lofts, which are a collection of row homes that have been for sale and completed construction a while ago. The other one is called Concourse, which is kind of the more traditional stacked condos that are located at Berkman and Tom Miller, kind of across the street from the tower. And they're beginning sales for that particular project. There are a total of 34 units, 13 of which are part of the Affordable Homes Program. There is a second floor mezzanine that they refer to as the flight deck, which is really kind of an opportunity for residents to enjoy the views of the tower and the plaza that's recently opened there. As previously shared, I think in the last update, there are plans for a market to be located there on the first floor. I don't have a lot of details still about that, but as soon as I have more information, I will certainly share that. But I know that's something the community has been waiting for quite some time, to have a little place to stop in and get some coffee, buy some wine, get a beer, sandwich, that sort of thing. And then in case you're wondering, on the north end of the project, since we've been talking about 51st Street, the northern project actually also has two kind of components to it. One is a collection of 8 shop homes that I think are nearing completion to begin that sale process, and then soon after, I'm guessing here within the next few months, another condo project called Iris. Again, also traditional stacked condos will start their sales process, and we'll keep you posted on that as well. Just a quick update related to landscaping. This is the time of year where Urban Dirt, which is the hired landscaping crew for the Property Owners Association, takes a step back from their traditional mowing and edging and that sort of stuff. But they are still busy doing a variety of things in the community. A lot of irrigation repairs taking place this time of year. They're also collecting all of the fallen leaves, and as you know, we have a lot of trees. Of course, now in Miller, by design, there's a lot of leaves that have to be collected as a result of that. They're working on a lot of weed control, trimming back perennials, which will start next week for the folks who live in the row homes, as well as in the parks. They'll also begin probably in February doing some more tree pruning. There's been I think there's kind of a 5-year program now, last year being the first year, to trim the trees back so that there's more sunlight that comes through and allowing the grass to grow underneath. And then they'll probably begin on the mulching for both the parks and the row homes beginning in March. Some late breaking news. I actually just got this information a couple hours ago. You want an opportunity to, I guess, get an update on transportation items. I-35 is, TxDOT is having a community meeting or a community open house. Again, I just got this information. It is going to be Saturday, the 31st of January, from 11 to 1 p.m. at Austin Community College at the Highland campus. I don't have the exact address, but I will certainly share that when I have it. This will be kind of a general overview. They will be sharing design improvements since the environmental impact study was approved, I think about 1.5 years ago or so. They're not planning any kind of formal presentation. It is an open house, so people can kind of come and go as they choose. I will be sharing information in the Miller Messenger. I'm also going to offer to them to post something on Nextdoor for all the surrounding neighborhoods to participate, and I will also email these details to you all, so especially those of you in other neighborhoods can share this in your communication channels. Speaking of Save the Date, we do have some spring events that are on the books for this coming season. Austin Parks Foundation is coming back to do a Movies in the Park on Friday, March 20th. That will be in the Gerard Kenney Park in the amphitheater. I don't know what the movie's going to be. We'll get details on that as we get closer. KUTX Rock the Park is coming back for another spring series. Those will be on Fridays, March 27th, April 10th, and May 1st. And I can either repeat that or I can also email you with those dates. Honk ATX is coming back yet again. I know that's kind of a fan favorite for a lot of folks in Miller and surrounding areas. They're going to come back on Saturday, March 28th. They'll be around Lake Park and the Aldrich Street Paseo. And then the Property Owner Association is working on a couple of public events. They do an event the past few years in John Gaines Park called the Pollinator Event, which is an opportunity for residents to come out and plant some things that attract bees, butterflies, things like that. And then they're looking at kind of a new event, kind of a wellness and a blood drive event that'll take place, they think, sometime in May. So as we get closer to that and have more details, I will certainly share that. And then my last item on here, which will be, I think, a bit of a transition for the next agenda item that you have. I just wanted to express on behalf of everyone at Banbury our sadness for the loss and the recent passing of former Commissioner Ken Ronsonette. He made such a huge contribution to the Delwood 2 neighborhood as well as the Miller neighborhood to make both those places incredible places to live. I wanted to let you all know that I have been in contact with the Parks and Recreation Department, which, as you may now know, owns the greenways in the northwest, southwest, and southeast. And obviously, since Delwood 2 is connected to the Northwest Greenway, I'm looking at seeing if there are ways to name some kind of aspect of the Northwest Greenway after him for all his contributions. And so as soon as I have more details, I'll share that. But it sounds like it could be a relatively easy process. There's an application process that I'm going to be working on as I collect more information about and more details about all of Ken's contribution. I'm not sure if I have the opportunity in the next agenda item to express anything personally, so I'll just take this opportunity here to just say that I got to know Ken through the Miller Commission, but also through his role on the Austin Transportation Commission, and then as a fellow Delwood 2 neighbor. And I always found him to be persistent at times, inquisitive about a lot of information, a lot of things. He was, though, very appreciative, very understanding, very patient with us when we were trying to collect more information for him. But he really did serve this community very well, and I think, like you all, we're very saddened for his passing, and glad that y'all are honoring him here this evening as well. With that, I'll take any questions.
Commissioners, questions for Brian on the development update. We'll start with Dave and then go to Jeff.
Do you have any information about some of the stop signs that were removed? There was survey, one that wasn't planted in the ground, sort of along backside of the Thinkery, going to the parking garage. It was like there, and then now it's removed, but the stripes are still in place. And then there was another stop sign removed at Maddie and Simon. And I was wondering if you know anything about those changes.
I know that they exist. I believe Commissioner Soklik had asked me about that at a previous meeting, and I asked a transportation department about that. They were put in at the request of someone, but we don't know exactly who put those requests in. And I know they were supposed to be temporary, but I don't know exactly why they were temporary. So I can follow up further on that. Just so I have it for my notes, it was, I know, over by the Thinkery. What was the other location?
Yeah.
Maddie and...
The other location was Simon and Maddie.
Okay. Happy to follow up.
Thank you.
Yes, Court.
Just a moment of clarification.
Mm-hmm.
So the park is named after Gerard.
Correct.
The lake is still Lake Park.
The lake doesn't really have a name itself, so the park is Gerard Kenney Park.
Right.
And then it's the pond now at, essentially at Gerard Kinney Park.
I've heard it described in different ways, and just a moment ago you said an event, the honky event at Lake Park. So I don't
That was just a
know what to
mistake
call
on, sorry, that was a mistake on my part. It is Gerard Kinney Park.
it. It is, but the lake itself doesn't have a name.
Currently, no.
Okay. But it might at some point.
Someone has a suggestion for it, yeah, there's certainly something to consider. And my apologies for the confusion, but it is Gerard Kinney Park.
Then the train is not gonna.
It's gonna take some time on that, and I will tell you that we are in the process of working through getting additional signage similar to the other named parks in Miller. I just saw a proposal on that come in my office today. We just need to get a little more information, get some approvals, and move that forward.
It's been Lake Park Lake,
Uh-huh.
which is such a great name.
And there have been times that I've referred to it as the pond at the lake, and is it a pond or a lake? So yeah, in some respect, I think actually naming it now Gerard Kinney Park instead of Lake Park will help with some of that confusion too. But it'll take some time, I think, for people to get used to the name.
I don't think I've ever heard that word pond used until just this conversation. I'm not looking for change, just direction. Thank you.
Yeah, there are moments in time when, because these are retention ponds at the end of the day, and when we get into some, people ask about the kind of the technical side, we refer to them as ponds, and I think when it's, being used as an amenity, it becomes more of a lake.
Yes, there is one person signed up to provide testimony. Connie Cole.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Ani Colt. In April, I'll have lived here in Miller for 14 years. I was almost 72 when I moved here, or 71, I guess, and I'm about to turn 85. I would like to say that we are not serving our seniors. Having a senior recreation place, specially designed to keep us strong, has been on the back burner and hasn't been spoken of, so I really would like to bring that up. Maybe I would have, when I fell 4 days ago and I'm injured, maybe I would have been stronger had I had that. I'd also like to say that there are no provisions for seniors to stay in Miller when they can't live independently. And this is something I've been talking about for at least a decade. So I bring those up again. And finally, on a lighter note, I look at Gerard Kinney Park every day. I'm very blessed that way, as we live across the street, and I think we should call it Kinney Park and Lake Gerard.
Thank you for your testimony. All righty, before we go on to the final item, I would, and since the idea was mentioned about possibly naming something, obviously that's not on today's agenda, so we can't take a formal vote on it. But since it was brought up during the development update, I'll say, personally, I like the idea, and if at a later time there is an opportunity for the commission to weigh in on it when it's properly posted on an agenda, I'd love that opportunity. I don't know that it doesn't sound like it's nothing that's required for us to take a position, but just thought I'd make that point. So, only because it was brought up during the development update, not as a separate topic. Okay. The last item on the agenda is memoriam for former Commissioner Ken Ronsonette. I'll start off. Many of you, especially if you've been involved in this, you knew Ken before I did. I met him through this commission, and it just occurs to me as this project winds down and we're down to at most maybe a year and months, that I think it's really important to, especially for all of the new people that have moved here in recent years, to try to remind them of the contributions of the people who helped develop the vision, not only the people with the city and Catella/Banbury, but also the community leaders who were really crucial that got it started. And he, along with people like Gerard and Roger Taylor and so many others, were kind of crucial. Yes, and I was, our vice chair as well was along with that group. And he was one of those people, and I don't know if you can come up with a fancy name. Some of the people that first bought houses here, they called them, I was one of them, Corky was another, they called us pioneers. But in some ways, Ken and so many others, you want to call them the founding fathers, because they really created the vision. And people for a long time are going to be, long after we're all gone as a commission, are going to be benefiting from the vision that he helped develop. And so that was kind of the comment I wanted to make about Ken, and I didn't know if we thought maybe some other commissioners might have some comments based on their own experiences with it. Rick?
So, yeah, I met Ken probably shortly, probably 83, maybe as late as 84. And this was again after Gerard sort of got all the neighborhoods around Miller together and saying, you know, because there were the plans to expand Miller as an airport, taking out either going south to MLK or north to 290 at least, I guess. So Gerard is the one who said, okay, let's see if we can't get him to move the airport, and if we do that, what are we going to do with the land? That's the Miller Neighborhoods Coalition. I'm pretty sure Delwood was one of the first to join. The only neighborhoods that abutted runway area. There are parts of Windsor Park that abutted over off of Manor Road. There's a little bit of Windsor Park that comes across on the south side of 51st, but it's apartments and duplexes, and I mean, they're perfectly legitimate residents, but they don't really participate in the neighborhood much. But yeah, Delwood too was certainly affected, and so Ken was the champion for the neighborhood, and he worked for the LCRA. I don't know how many of you knew that, but for a very long time, and then came to work for Austin Energy, and just all around a great guy. So he will be missed.
Commissioners, any other comments on our former colleague? Yes, Corky.
I was trying to remember when I first knew Ken, and then I went down the rabbit hole of Gerard, because I knew him first. I met him in the late 70s through Plenty, Fisk, and Gail. Well, Gail, I think it was Gail at the time. There were a couple of different women, but she was around. And not long after that, I met Ken. I was living in Delaware too. I just come back from New York and bought a house there and was working at the LBJ school right down the highway. And we were all a lot friskier then. And I was working on, I was a precinct helper in the old 135 precinct, and that's how I really knew Ken. He wasn't in the same precinct, we were all doing grassroots politics together, but I knew Gerard through Plenty Fisk, primarily in jail. So I knew those guys for a long time. I knew Gerard a lot more closely, he and Latham. When I moved out of the area, I knew to watch this area because I always thought it was kind of charming and unfound gem, because not only of its proximity to downtown 935, but also because of the rich culture that was here between 12th Street and 290. There was a lot of stuff going on over here. So mischievousness occurred for lots of things, nothing illegal, but mostly just fun. And Ken I really didn't know well, I didn't just know acquaintance, so I really enjoyed working with him here. And he and I knew a lot of the same people, and we'd been in a lot of the same places, we just hadn't really known each other. Well, it's a delight to get to know him. And the vision which we had, which is developed for Miller, which we use as a guiding guideposts for our activities and our foundation for what we do. We're really radical in the 90s when they were espoused. And a lot of us knew the work of Jane Jacobs and how important building community was and how many of those very important concepts were wrapped up in Miller. So there's a book to be written, Greg. There's a book to be written somewhere by someone about the journey here, and not the end, but the journey. And really importantly is going to be the wisdom of the work of the late 80s and early 90s as people were trying to figure out what to do or how to build an asset to the community and not the feared trammel crow industrial complex, which everybody did fear to hear that stuff a lot. So I'm a direct beneficiary of those friendships, and I count my blessings so many times for the wealth of happiness and sanity and security I have living here and how that adds to the quality of my life measurably. So thanks, Ken and Gerard, and we need to honor all those guys, all those people.
Any other comments from any other commissioners? Yes, Dave.
Yeah, I'll just say that, I've obviously had a chance to work with Ken here, but also previously, when I was doing stuff at M&A, and I remember sort of reaching out to the surrounding neighborhoods and Ken just being incredibly welcoming to come over to that side of the community and talk with them about whatever, either it was I-35 or local business stuff or all that stuff, and it just seemed like it was such positive collaboration with that neighborhood, just really collaborative, and Ken himself is just incredibly thoughtful and kind of a calm presence, and also just super welcoming. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to work with him over the years on a variety of things. And just sort of thinking about Corky's comments, one of the things that I kind of made a first pass at, and I'm going to go for a second pass, is I'd really love to see Austin History Center do a retrospective on Miller, and just there's incredible wealth of people who contributed to what this neighborhood's become, and I'd love for them to tell the entire story. So I'm going to reach back out to them, and now that I think they're in a new building, I think it's open. They pushed me off before because they said they were too busy moving, so we'll take a second pass at it. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Anyone else have any other comments? Is there anyone signed up to, oh yes, Jill.
Hello, excuse me, Jill Fagan, Austin Financial Services. I just felt compelled to say a few words about Ken as well, and I believe I first met him through the Miller Transportation Committee meeting as the Delwood 2 representative, and all of the things that people have said tonight, I would echo the same things about Ken. His diligence, his willingness to work together, but his ability to ask really detailed and meaningful questions and to challenge, right, like assumptions, and just at the same time providing meaningful input that I think has been beneficial to the Miller project. I know he also was very involved in all things I-35 and TxDOT and continuing to advocate for that project and maintaining access to Delwood 2. Unfortunately, Pam Hefner was not able to be here this evening, but when I shared the sad news with Pam, she also immediately began to share with me all the times that she worked with Ken on the early years of planning. And as Brian mentioned, so much more of this I'm sure will come out in the coming weeks and months, but just a lot of the things particularly related to the connectivity from Delwood 2 to Miller through the Northwest Greenway. I think we can all thank Ken for his continued efforts for that. And on a personal note, and I've read about this about him recently, but I also know from sharing with Pam that Pam and Ken's children went to McCallum High School together, and there was the McCallum fundraisers where they did a music and movie in the park that was a fundraiser for the orchestra, and I took my boys when they were younger to these events, and I just, his sense of community and his providing back, it extended right just beyond his physical place, but I think he just made so many contributions on many levels, so I just felt I wanted to share that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, you had another comment?
there is a card circulating. Anybody who wants to sign it, please feel free to do. I will get that to Vanessa at some point soon. So I don't know where it is right now.
It's somewhere.
See it
We'll
over
find
there
it.
behind Dave. So.
And before we go to public testimony, and Corky, that was a great idea about the history. I would hope that when they talk about Ken's contribution and all the others, I hope that they'll start not only with the idea of basically a suburban industrial office park, which was one of the early ideas that would have been horrible, but I hope somebody will go back to the early 80s and look at the alternative of what if the airport had been expanded and what it would have done and wiped out a big chunk of most of the neighborhoods. I was living in the Blackline neighborhood at that time, and I think I remember the published plan. It would have, the new runway would have ended 1 block from where I was living, which meant everything in between would have been gone. And so, you know, look at the incredible contrast of this beautiful green space, and it's, you know, because of people like Ken and Gerard and all the others. So we do have one member of the public who'd like to provide 3 minutes of testimony. Greg Weaver.
Thank you all. So Ken, commissioners, Greg Weaver from Banbury Development. Ken, in the early days in 2002, early days for me when I moved here, kind of took me under his wing, but he was clearly representing Delwood too. And a few things that are super important. Jill mentioned one of them, that he advocated again and again for Delwood too. And if you all remember when the airport was there was an old rusty chain link fence. That was the back fence for all the homes there. And we thought that, oh, everyone's going to want the fence to go away and we're going to just do a fence, like a wrought iron fence or something else. And so Ken came and said, wait a second. Not everybody wants the rusty fence to go away. And we're like, really? That's really interesting. And he said, well, we were like, well, what do they want? And they're like, well, the residents all want different fences, which for us was like, wow, that's going to be hard. And I said to Ken, I said, hey, we are all in. Like, let's go do it. Let's pick 2. I think we had 2 or 3 different options. There was going to be a wrought iron fence. That was just a straight fence. A wrought iron fence with a gate, which at first it was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have gates, back gates, you know, onto the Northwest Greenway, which is a fancy name, Northwest Greenway, Lightweight Park. But then also, could there be like a rock fence? And Ken, with my team, and those of you who met Carl Paulson, you know, I said, Ken, we're all in to go do it, help us and help our team. And he went door to door and door to door, and we had a form signed because we needed to know what everybody selected to go do. And so when you walk back there today on the Northwest Greenway, not every house has different fences, so some neighbors agreed to go do it. And this goes back to 2000, probably 2004, 2005 that happened. Then Ken said, hey, we want connectivity to the trail. And back then, the way the roads and the houses backed up, there was no connectivity. You would have to walk out of Delwood to either on I-35 or walk on the Airport Boulevard. And Ken one day walked me down this alley that was a dead end into a piece of property. And he said, I think this is public right of way, but he said this house, backyard to the house is in the way. And I'm like, who owns the house? And Ken himself went and did the due diligence, did the homework, and Ken got to work with a neighbor. And there was a person who was not that friendly, who was not wanting to accommodate the trail, and Ken and us kind of brokered with the owner, and we subdivided, we had to go and subdivide the back end of that house to get, I forget if it's like an 8 or 10 foot connection from Delwood to off the alley to direct connectivity. And again, all 05, 06. And Ken was diligent, but he was calm, he was sweet. Fast forward 6 months ago. When I heard about Ken's diagnosis, and he's been a huge supporter. Getting emotional. Didn't expect that. He's been a supporter of me, Catellas, Banbury, obviously been a supporter of the neighborhood. And so I heard about the diagnosis, reached out and stopped by his house one day, brought him some cookies, and just to say hi, just to check in. And we're sitting there, and it was like Saturday morning. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know, we were kind of talking, and it was kind of time to wrap up. He's like, "I got a few things to talk to you about." He's like, "You want to take a walk?" and as of 6 months ago, we walked to the same alleyway. We walked through the alley. He's showing some things like the weeds overgrown, or some some vines overgrown, and he was showing me where there's some drainage issue. But that man he was passionate. He was kind. He was committed. I mean, as of 6 months ago, literally sitting around talking about it. Amazing, incredible person. So I just wanted to share that because I think there's all the big things from the 80s and then all the way through the 90s to 6 months ago, with me at least, where he's been so committed to Mueller and to making this community a better place. And, I'm sad he's gone and honored to know him and be proud that he was a part of this for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you everyone for sharing your comments and thoughts. That concludes this part of the meeting. Commissioners, as always, if you have ideas, suggestions for agenda items for the February meeting, send us to them probably within the next couple of weeks. Remember, our timeline has been pushed up because of changes in state law. I should give everybody a heads up. Remember when we approved our meeting schedule for last year, I think I noted that sometimes in the early first quarter of the year, sometimes we don't always wind up having a meeting. Right now, we don't have anything for February, so that might happen. But if something changes, obviously we'll let everybody know. Yes, Courtney?
When is the deadline for the agenda for February?
When is it? It's a little earlier than it used to be. I've forgotten what the date is. January 30th, so everybody, that's our new earlier deadline. So, with that, that concludes our business today. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Is there a second? There is a second. I'll also note for the record, for the last couple of items, Commissioner Jackson has joined us online. Always great to see him. So there's a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. See you maybe February, probably March for sure. Thank you.